And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. And joining us again today, our very own Jerry Ferrier is back. We're going to dive into the whole Musk and Twitter, his plans for it. Some of it's absolutely fascinating. We were talking about it a little bit earlier this week. If you are somebody who is curious where some of the stuff is going, today is your show. So Jerry's going to walk us through some of it, talk about some of the conversation that we had. I want to dive into some of the other apps too that we use. Facebook, the challenges they're going to face with the metaverse, why TikTok is so successful, some of our favorite things about social media. But we're just going to dive into social media in general in 2022 by starting off with Musk's plan for Twitter. Jerry, you already know this. You're about to be completely underwhelmed. But the most important question of every show, Mark, how are you feeling today?
I feel good. Oh. I am curious as to how you always I don't want to say yell at me, but you ridicule, make fun of me when I text while we're live on the air.
Yes.
And you have brought the worst person in the history of the world then on to sit with us because I'm pretty sure Jerry was texting during the marathon. And he ran with his phone and responded to emails. So his ability not to look at the phone for more than 45 seconds is, while awake, he probably texts from the shower. He probably has some setup where he can voice text. I don't know. But so anyway, there you go. There's the downward look. He's looking at his phone. We should count. This would be a good drinking game for college kids. How many times does Jerry look at his phone during this segment?
Do you ever play
that people would be hammered?
Do you ever play the phone stack? So when we go out, if there's a group of 4 or 5, 6 of us, we will stack our phones in the middle of the table. And then the first one that has to take their phone out of the stack loses. They essentially buy the round. So you can't take your phone out of the stack. So the best part too is they're all buzzing. They're all going off. So everyone's just kind of sitting there looking at the stack. And it's just, just who can't take it? Who can't stand it?
What do you lose?
You have to buy the round.
Oh, did you say that?
Yes.
Okay, that is funny.
Yeah. So
it's the masturbation episode from Seinfeld.
Yes, it is.
One of the
master of my domain.
One of the great moments in all of television history is when Kramer walks in, slams his money down, and says, "I'm out." That is. Oh, what an episode that is.
So, by the way, it's all on Netflix right now. I started going.
Seinfeld.
Yes. I started going. When's the last time you've really watched?
I was going to say, I flipped through it. It is so weird because you just feel like you've seen them all.
Yes.
I flipped through. I was somewhere searching for either basketball games or hockey games or something. I came across a Friends episode.
Uh-huh.
So what I end up doing with a lot of these is watching long enough to be like, oh, yeah, I've seen this one, and then I flip it.
And then you leave.
So when the last time I ever watched a full episode of any of the classics has probably been a long time, a decade or more.
Jerry, did you watch Seinfeld?
Occasionally.
Occasionally you would watch it. So they're all on Netflix. I started from the beginning because I was obviously younger. So I started from the beginning. I have to say, the first season or two, it's not great. It took a while for that show to hit its stride. If that show would have been made now, it would have been canceled. It wouldn't have made it. It wouldn't.
Well, I'd heard this, and I don't know if this is true, but the first week it was out, Cheers was the lowest rated primetime show in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I watched it the first night it was out because I was a middle school kid or whatever, and it just happened. It was on after Family Ties or whatever, and so yeah, it doesn't surprise me. My story with Seinfeld is my aunt used to tell me, she would beg me to watch this show. And I'm like, I thought it had a stupid title, and she's like, really, she'd say, just keep watching it. Watch it for 3 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get to know the characters.
Yeah.
And you will love it. And I'm like, I don't know. And then she was ahead of the Seinfeld curve.
Sure.
And but I remember her, and when nobody was talking about it, she was talking about it. So she might have been one of those people in the first couple seasons before.
Yeah. So I I plowed through the first two. By the end of 2-3, they catch their stride, the inside jokes, everything else. But that first season is rough. It is not a good show, that first season.
Really?
Yes. I think in today's age, it would have been canceled. On to more relevant topics. Let's jump from, what year did Seinfeld come out? 90.
I was in college, 91, 92.
91. So let's jump from 91, 92 to 21, 22. And let's talk a little bit about social media today. Jerry came into the room the other day. Him and I had a long, enduring conversation about Musk's plans for Twitter. Jerry, you're really good at this. Can you just, in 60, 100 seconds, explain to people in the most basic way possible what Musk actually wants to do here?
Well, I think what he wants to do is going to surprise people in that I don't think in the long term his play is for Twitter, the public forum platform that we see. His play is for the technology and the tech stack. So what I think he's going to do is I think he will split Twitter off as a platform, as the app that we all know and use from everything else. He'll push that into the public domain. It'll become some form of public corp, and not controlled by him. And then he will make his money off of what he's going to do on the backside. And that won't happen until everything's cleaned up. With the announcement today, obviously he is serious about getting rid of the spam accounts and the bot accounts and taking care of that problem. Probably some kind of edit button, probably much more transparency on moderation. So a lot of those things are going to happen. And once that all happens, I think then he will form a nonprofit organization of some kind, and they will push that into the public forum, because that's what ultimately he thinks. Twitter needs to be the public town hall, and it needs to be treated as such. And I think that would be good for the app. That would be good for the platform for sure. And then he'll take the technology on the backside and he'll create something, whatever this product X is that he's talking about. You know, that's ultimately where he feels he's going to be able to make his money.
When you were in earlier, you said essentially the sale is frozen for a second.
Yes.
I found some of the numbers you said there. I think those are interesting. What percentage do they believe are bots on Twitter?
Well, Twitter is saying 5%.
Okay.
Musk is saying, I want to know the real number. And that's why the deal is on hold. And obviously it's a play. It's a play for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a play to expose that particular problem on Twitter and expose the size of it. Number two, it's a play to reduce the price that he's ultimately going to pay, because he's not going to pay for fake engagement. He's not going to pay for a fake user base, which completely makes sense. And then I think it's also a bit of public leverage to force the current internal employees and internal management of Twitter to take those problems seriously and do something about it. So all of those things are part of what's happening in this freeze.
No, so when I hear that Twitter says it's 5%, my immediate thought is it's higher, because that's what people do. Do you think, your educated guess, do you think the 5% is reasonably accurate and they're giving a real number because they're afraid because they assume he's going to investigate, or do you think they lowballed it?
Oh, I think they've been lowballing it for a long time, and I think that's, if it was 5%, which is what they've always said, he would not have done this. Like, he's doing this to expose the fact that it's much greater than that, and it's a much more serious problem than that needs fixed. And of course, he's positioned himself as the solution to the problem. So I mean, it's self-serving. But yeah, I think he thinks it's much greater than that, and by much greater, who knows? But even if it's 5% greater, that 10% of all Twitter activity is spam and bots. That's double, you know. So I think that's what we're gonna see.
If he needs a solution to the problem, he should just call us, because Jeff and I solve problems every day. That's what we do here.
Part of the bot thing, though, isn't it just, I mean, part of the bot problem is Twitter's not necessarily a visual app. It's a lot easier to be a bot on an app when you don't have to have a necessarily like a profile picture isn't the main point, or posting selfies of yourself isn't the main point.
No, but the bot problem is actually in the problem comes from the following, right? So you say you have 1.4 million followers. Well, if 40% of those are bots, you don't really have a voice to 1.4 million people. You have a voice to 900,000 people. And that's where this whole bot thing comes into play, right? It is because there is part of the algorithm that prioritizes messages from those big accounts, right? The bigger the account you are, the more visibility your tweet has, the more authority your tweet has, all of those things. So in eliminating that, he's going to bring the authority of those accounts down and reduce the authority of those accounts. So I think that's the bigger issue. It's not necessarily the comment spam or the fake commenting or the fake liking of things. It's actual the followers and the accounts that are doing the following.
So let's break the bad news to Mark about how he's not going to have a physical license forever. Let's talk about, what does he actually call the identification that he's planning to do?
Well, he isn't calling it anything, and he's downplaying it. I mean, basically what he says is his goal is to authenticate all human beings. That's the statement that he has made. He made that in his initial press release, and he made it in his TED Talk 2 weeks ago. I think that's the key element to what he wants to accomplish, is developing some kind of permanent, portable digital ID that is one and done. Like, you get one, and he wants it to be the one that he's developing. And then he wants to develop the architecture and the technical structure to pass that ID between all digital platforms.
So essentially, it'd be your digital Social Security, but that Social Security number would work in any language or any system, essentially.
Correct. And then you start adding things to that, like your own personal blockchain, your own unified wallet for blockchain. Those kinds of things would all come under that. And I think that's what he's headed towards.
You and I talked, I said about the challenges. I think it would be one of the greatest like onboarding challenges in human history. You and I disagree on this. I find the challenge to be not overwhelming, but I think it's going to take time. Like, I think the time scale is longer than what you think. You think the implementation of this is going to be a little forced. Is that a fair word to say? The hands are going to be a little more forced than what I think.
Yeah, because I think there's going to be a wide variety of adoption cases for it, right? People are going to sign up, get their digital ID, and then use it for different things. So, some it might be medical records, some might be that the states finally said that they're only going to issue licenses through that. Some might be that the IRS says the only way to get your refund back is to have a digital ID and have it pass through your blockchain. Who knows? But I think there's going to be a variety of those things that are going to force people into getting it. And then once they get it, they discover, oh, I can do all this other stuff because I have this. And that's when the adoption, the curve and the adoption curve will start to pick up. But I think it'll be a variety of things. I don't think it's going to be one thing. I don't think it's going to be the government saying this is our form of digital social your social security number. I don't think that's going to be it. I think this solution is going to come out of a private endeavor, and then it's going to cross over just because it'll be too big to reel back in once it gets started.
So for someone like me, I'm just going to be trying it. Like the moment I can get it, I'm going to get it and I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to be trying to purchase different things. I'm going to be trying to collect stuff. For somebody like Mark, let's say, what do you think would be like the first case use for like the average citizen that's not going out of their way to actually do this? What is like the hand forcer?
Well, I think it could be
it's some type of government deal, like some type.
Well, it could be, or it could be that it unifies all the electronic payment systems. So, like, it brings all of your credit cards under one thing. It brings all your bank accounts under one thing. It brings all of your transferring services under one thing, so you don't have to worry about it. Or it becomes the bridge between crypto and hard currency. So you have a single wallet that combines your crypto stuff and your hard currency stuff. I think there's a variety of things that it could be, but I think it's probably going to deal in that area of finance that has all of these various apps that don't talk to one another, that you've got to keep track of. And I think that's probably the space that's going to be in that, and the whole becoming verified on social. I mean, that's the first thing. Like to participate fully in Twitter, you've got to be verified. So you got to go get verified if you want to participate. That's the other one is the verification to be able to use something. And most likely, the social platforms a place for that.
Mark, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the future?
Oh my God. I don't even know if 10's high enough.
You don't think so?
Oh my, this is just.
You're going to lose your leather-bound wallet. How do you feel about that?
No, I'm not.
You're going to keep it forever?
Yeah, yes.
What are you going to keep in it? Like mementos?
Well, you're going to keep your driver's license.
Uh-huh.
You're going to keep you're still going to have credit cards. You're still going to have your discount cards. You're still, like, when you buy lottery tickets, where do you shove them? They don't go in your digital wallet. It's the world, as technology advances, this is what happens with technology. And this is what's been the crazy thing about the internet. The internet has made the world better for so many people in so many varying ways. Mm. But there are lots of businesses out there that, especially old school businesses, that function very well without the internet, that barely use the internet. And there are still old people. My mom isn't online. My mom has a cell phone. She can text a little, but she's gone her whole life and done just fine. And really, as we go around, now they're older, but when you go around to a lot of business, especially businesses with word of mouth, there are restaurants that barely have an internet presence because it's just about word of mouth and people going and stuff like that. So, when we order lunch every day, it's never had anything to do with anything online. So with all this stuff, I'm sure there are people who it will make it easier for, but for the people who see it as complex and they're like, I don't need to do this, and I can just continue to go my way, and I can still go to the grocery store and use my Visa card. I can still watch TV on cable. I can still do all those things. Like if it doesn't make their life markedly easier, then those people won't go to it. Now, the internet has made essentially everyone's life easier in one where, even if it's just checking weather, getting texts, getting emails, like, 20 years ago when you're like, oh, smartphone, who needs a smart, who needs all that stuff? Now the vast, vast, vast majority of Western society couldn't live without it.
Sure.
So does this become something that people can't live without? Or is it cool for the techie people who get it and know how it works and it makes their life simple? But for the other people, there's a huge learning curve to get to where it becomes simple. That's what it's going to come down to.
So Jerry, what are those ease of access challenges that Mark's expressing?
Well, I think you and I talked about this the other day. That I think in the United States is an interesting adoption case study. The technologies that we're talking about, digital identity identification and the unification of a digital wallet and all that stuff, it's all going to happen in the third world long before it takes off here. I mean, what we don't understand is how the smartphone has changed the rest of the world. They do everything on their smartphone. They do the access to banking that they have, the access to information that they have, the access to the world that they have is all in their pocket. That's it. Are
you implying like the lack of brick and mortar, or are you implying
the lack of everything, right? Okay. I mean, it is their phone and a cell tower, or satellite internet, whatever. That's their connection. We live in a society where we can still physically access everything that we've always accessed, and if you want to do it that way, you can still do it that way. But the adoption of taking on and allowing online things and digital things and technology things to make your life better has been rapidly accelerating. One of the best examples that I give is like Giant has more employees in the store right now running around bagging groceries for people who have ordered their stuff online than they do taking care of people in the line. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. And 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. Now, did COVID help that? Sure. But once somebody started to order their stuff from Giant Direct, like they haven't stopped doing it. The groceries still show up on their doorstep. So I think in the United States, in our setting, adoption is going to be slow because we have a group of people who are used to doing things a certain way, and that's the way they're going to do it. That's why I say there's going to be something that's going to come along where some organization or some area of their life is going to come along and say, okay, the only way that you can get this is if you do this and you have this new app on your phone and you get it in this way. And then the moment that happens, people will start to do it, and then they'll figure out that they can do other things with it. And I think it's going to be the universe of unifying a lot of different things that we've always do and put it into one place and make it easier. That's the way our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to figure out the easiest way of doing something. And once we learn that there's an easier way to do it, our brain wants to do it that way. So I think that's what's going to ultimately happen. What is going to be the first killer app that's going to do it? I don't know. I don't know what that is, but I think the most logical one is social media participation. If you want to participate, you need a blue check mark, and in order to get a blue check mark, you need digital ID, and that's the way it is.
It's almost like the Raya app. For celebrity dating, you can't be on the Raya app without the check mark.
Almost.
Yeah, you have to be verified on it.
So how hard was it for you to get the blue check mark to get on the Raya?
You know what's funny? My issue wasn't getting onto Raya. It was getting anybody to swipe right on me once I was on Raya has been the challenge so far. Facebook's challenges for the metaverse. We are obviously on Facebook. We do a ton of what we do at NorthcentralPa.com on Facebook. Zuckerberg went through the Ripper here in the last year or so, kind of dove into the meta thing when it felt rushed. It felt early. It felt a lot of things, but right, in my opinion. Challenges for the metaverse moving forward, just leave it open kind of broadly there. Real quick before we start, I have used an Oculus. Have you ever put on an Oculus?
Is that those game things?
Yeah, like the white goggles.
My son has, but I have not.
Jerry, I'm assuming that you have used an Oculus.
Yes.
So just like metaverse wise, I feel like it's rushed. I feel like it's A, obviously it's not ready. B, I also feel like this is not really what Zuckerberg would have wanted to do or the timeline he wanted. I think with everything that was happening after the elections and everything that happened during the pandemic, I think he kind of had his hand forced a little bit, and he had to dive into it. Any challenges for the metaverse that you foresee, Jerry?
Again, the biggest challenge, and again, this almost comes back to the first thing that we were talking about, is the metaverse is based on digital ownership, right? If I own something in Facebook's metaverse and I can't take that asset to Sony's metaverse or Samsung's metaverse or Universal Studios metaverse or Disney's metaverse, that limits what I'm going to do. That I've got to figure out how much money I'm going to spend here, how much money I'm going to spend there. Like it really is a problem. And so until they get it figured out where you can take a character, take your avatar, and you can transfer it from place to place or move it around from place to place, and then take your assets and do the same thing. I don't know. I don't know who's gonna win, right? You've got to have such a mass installed user base to be able to win. I think the concepts are great. I mean, my wife and I were on Second Life, like when Second Life originally came out. Well, and what was that? 20 years ago? Like the concept of them is really good. And I have a rule about Oculus. I won't go under an Oculus. Like once you start gaming in an Oculus, you don't want to game any other way. It's very, it's its own form of addiction. And so those things, once things get to a point where it makes it valuable to be inside those places and to transact and do business inside those places, I think they're going to explode. But the problem, the end game, the end problem is I don't want to create a character in all 7 places. Like I don't want to have a different avatar in all 7 places. I don't want to look different in all 7 places per se. Are there some people who will? Yeah, there's some people who will, because there are people who play, multiplayer games all the time who have 9 different characters that look 9 different ways. I understand that. But as far as a personal identity going from place to place in a essentially a parallel universe, no, you kind of want to keep your identity. You want people to be able to know who you are. And so I think that's the end problem right now is you don't have that. And so who wants to go through and create 7 different ones or 5 different ones or whatever it is?
Yeah. You had used the EU, I think, as an example when we had talked about it earlier this week.
Yeah. I mean, once you begin to unify things and be able to cross between borders and currencies similar and all those kinds of things, things get easier, right? And that's where this is all going to go. Do I see a use in the metaverse for virtual meetings and virtual conferences and like, if you've been to any of Tony Robbins's conferences in the last 2 years, they had this kind of metaverse kind of feel to them. That kind of thing, yeah. There's a lot of application on that side of things. I just don't the social and the gaming side. You're going to be stuck with early adopters for a long time until you solve some of these issues that allow it to be simpler. To Mark's point, you got to dumb the technology down. You got to bring the technology down to a level and the ability to use it to a place where it's dummy proof for most people, and that's not where the metaverse is right now at all.
Interesting.
There's what I know. It's more exciting to talk about prison guards who break out 6-8 inmates and go on the lam for 10 days than to talk about, where the metaverse is going in your crypto wallet.
Completely disagree.
That's what I
This is why you're like the most immature person I know. Because God forbid people talk about something that you don't want to talk about. Because this is Mark when people talk about something. When he doesn't get to talk and everyone else gets to talk, this is Mark right here. This is Mark. This is Mark for the last 29 minutes.
No, I've been listening.
This is how you listen. It's like
I just wonder. I don't think that any of this is happening quickly.
If you watch, I agree. If you watch ESPN or any talk show, like two people are talking, the third person isn't in the corner like this on the side of the screen. That's all I'm saying. Like, play your part.
Well, yeah, but
Play your part. Play your role.
When you're on ESPN and they're talking about things, and they're talking about, who's going to win the Super Bowl, they're not talking about the Super Bowl of 2034.
Sometimes they are.
Have
you watched sports talk
Are we
radio?
Scouting fourth grade playgrounds for wideouts yet?
If you listen to Philadelphia sports talk in the last day or two, they're not talking about the game last night. They're talking about, like, should you have James Harden signed through 2026? So I disagree.
Well, because they lost last night, so it's all a reflection of last night's game. If they would have won last night, they'd be talking about Thursday. But they're talking about the present Philadelphia 76ers.
I think good teammates find a way to play their role, no matter what's being done or what's being talked about.
Mark, I will completely agree with you. All of this stuff is not happening tomorrow.
No.
But like when we're in 2030,
yeah.
When I'm going into Walmart,
yes.
Am I still using greenbacks or credit cards or whatever? Am I using US currency or am I using crypto?
I think that's a loaded question because I would argue there might not be a difference between the two.
Jeff will say there might not be a difference. I'll say in 2030, you'll have a choice of doing either. And
that would be my guess.
And to a certain degree, you might not, kind of to Jeff's point, you might not know what you're paying with. You might just know you're paying. And an AI controlled program that's operating to sort of help you manage your finances might make the decision. Right now I'm paying with crypto, or right now I'm paying with cash.
Yeah. So part of Jerry's, like the whole concept of it unifying all of your things. When you walk in, you might literally pay with your net worth. What it actually comes out of, you might decide when you get your statement later, or but you might just be sliding a card, or you might be just like scanning something, and it just knows this is your value. You have X amount of this, X amount of that, this currency, that portfolio, whatever it is. And so when you scan, they know you owe this amount of net worth. And then later on, you have to decide where do I want to take this out of? That's what I think you're going to end up paying net worth wise. I think whatever you're valued at, that's what you're going to pay with. And then later on, you decide what it comes out of.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it this way. Think if right now, if you had a credit card right now that you could scan to pay with credit, but that credit card had all 7 of your credit cards on it. It knew all of your limits. It also knew all of the promo deals and which card gets money back from gas and which card's getting money back from restaurants. Right? You don't need to know any of that shit. You just scan a card, and it figures out the best possible deal for using your credit.
See, now I can see that because that's easy. And that makes everyone's life easier, so people would do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it also, as I watch this move along, it is so, as I said, in 2030, what people 35 and younger are doing, even your age, people, 40, 45 and younger, and then everybody
I'm
over.
still 35 and younger.
Yeah, I mean, like you're in that generation. You're in the techie generation because it's kind of, even though, how old were you when you got a cell phone?
I'm 18.
But it's still always been part of your life. Really. So, yes, those are the two generations. As long as there's old people, and Jerry's a crossover because Jerry's an old person but knows technology better than most. Mm. But most of my generation and older, it's just the divide's going to be bigger. And I mean, maybe you'll see, maybe in 2030 and in 2035, there will be mom and pop stores that still accept cash, and there'll only be a couple of them. And the old timers will still go to that store because they can still pay with cash.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I mean, there are people that will never adopt, right? I mean, there are people that will go to their grave and never adopt. But there's going to be use cases come along that's going to compel people to do it. One of the things that I think is coming along that you guys should talk about at some point in time is, I think within the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to be able to invest in an athlete's career as an individual. because they're going to sell. They are going to create an NFT that has value to it. They're going to fractionalize that NFT, and you're going to be able to buy into a college athlete's professional career, professional value, right out of the gate. It's certainly going to change. It'll change sports cards. It'll change collecting. It'll change gambling. It's going to change all of that. But that's coming. Like, you're going to be able to invest in Aaron Judge. You know, that when he's not Aaron Judge. You know, when he's in the midst of his college career.
That is fascinating. Yeah,
that kind of stuff is coming.
Not even in college, you could enjoy. Yeah, invest in them now.
It's also like it's almost like a fantasy style. It's a different way to play fantasy sports, but you're gambling with money, and it's a trajectory.
It's combined fantasy sports and the stock market.
Yeah,
yeah, and the same thing. I see the exact same thing happening with colleges, especially NCAA basketball. Imagine you can buy a share of Duke, or you can buy a share of North Carolina. And you can trade it, right? It has value, and you're selling it back. Now imagine that system is controlled by the schools, so that UNC, every transaction that happens on UNC's NFT pays the school. They get a cut.
I think that use case. I think sports in general, ticket sales, to me, like, the idea that season ticket holders aren't going to just have an NFT within like 2 to 3 years. I think within 3 years, if you are a season ticket holder at a big Division I school, your tickets are going to be an NFT, because you can just keep rolling it over. There is you don't have to print the tickets off every year. You don't have to like debate ownership, or like, you have the NFT, it rolls over. And if you no longer want the seats, you sell the NFT.
Yep. Absolutely.
And to me, that is like I think that's like a 2025 or like 2026er. I think that's very, very close. Maybe not for like individual shows or individual games, but for like companies and organizations that have people who get the same seat multiple times over. Licenses. It's a no-brainer.
Yes. Yeah, seat licenses will be delivered that way. Absolutely.
And I see with something like that, the first one that does it will be just like, the first guy through the wall, and they will get bloodied, and there will be problems with it. But they will quickly figure it out, and then it will spread rapidly. Once one school does it, then the next year 5 schools will do it, and then the next year 55 schools will do it, and it'll spread like wildfire, because once there'll be some stupid bugs that nobody ever thought of, and that's how bugs always work. But then once they figure it out for things like that, yes, I can absolutely see why that would work.
Yeah, no, I think it's coming. Jerry, why is TikTok so successful, before you go?
Why is TikTok so successful? Thirst traps. That's why TikTok's so successful.
Wait, what?
Thirst traps. You don't know what a thirst trap is?
I do not know what
it's like a teaser. It's a, some of them are sexual in manner, but it's a teaser essentially.
A thirst trap. I've never heard that term. I mean, it makes perfect sense. So when you sent me the TikTok about the umpire screaming,
that was not a thirst trap.
That was not sexual in nature.
Well, for you like talking about coaching and youth coaching so much, it might have been, but no, it was not.
I found it interesting. I didn't find it sexual and all, but the umpire yelling at the people behind home plate, I thought was great. Yeah.
Oh, did you see the one the umpire gave the $45 back and walked off?
Well, this one, the umpire came over and was yelling at these people and said, "I just told the coach, if you don't shut up, you're going to forfeit the game." And the guy yelled something back, and he's like, "That's it." And he walked off the field. I've seen the one about the $45 back. There was no financial transaction. He basically told the guy, "If you don't shut up, I'm leaving," and the guy didn't shut up, and he left.
That's great.
Yeah,
Jeff, I think TikTok is so successful because of the format, the ease of getting on the platform, and the format, and obviously over the course of the last 3 years, the editing tools and stuff have gotten more advanced, and people are doing all kinds of really interesting things. But there's the ease of the format. But the biggest thing is if you spend 30 minutes on TikTok, swiping videos, TikTok learns very, very quickly what you like to consume. And then it does a great job of feeding it to you. That's TikTok's secret. The algorithm is TikTok's secret. And they're very good at it. And they will just keep feeding you what you want to watch, over and over and over again, until you tell them you don't want to watch it anymore. And that's the secret. The fact that they make it easy for people to monetize and make money on TikTok and gain a following and all that stuff, that's part of the mix. But their ultimate success is the ability for them to show videos to you that you want to watch.
Now, can we talk about something important?
What?
As I just saw this on Facebook. Did you know one of the great universities of America is MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology?
Okay.
According to this, I don't know if it's fake news or not, but I'm going to read it anyway with doing no research just because it's so fun. MIT offers a pirate certificate to any student who completes an archery, sailing, fencing, and pistol or rifle range shooting course.
Sweet.
So you can go to MIT, the smartest people in the world.
Uh-huh.
Go to MIT. You can get a pirate certificate as long as you can do archery, sailing, fencing, and pistol shooting.
Pirates were a little hoity-toity, weren't they?
No, I don't think so.
Those are like that's some like clout activity though. Like those are not cheap activities. Like you need a boat. There's some hoity-toityness to pirates.
Well, I mean, they're all necessary to being a pirate, though. I know you're saying you couldn't be a broke pirate.
It's very hard to be a broke pirate.
I would agree with that. But
gotta have some coin there.
Those are all.
That's what I took from that is if you want to be a pirate, you need some coin.
It is the modern day, back in the day, Dad had to belong to a country club if Junior wanted to be a pirate.
Pirate, yes.
Because you need a boat, you need a sword, you need a pistol.
Yes. You also need water. Water's crucial. If you don't have water,
yes.
Otherwise you're just a thief. You got to have a boat.
You got to have a boat. Yes.
If you don't have a boat and some water, you're just a thief. You're no longer a pirate.
If you're not a pirate. Did we talk about this the other day that you talked about water, that the governor from Colorado put out a tweet that says his state is tied for the fewest amount of shark attacks?
It's really, really good.
I thought that was very clever.
Very clever. Very, very clever. So
I wonder how many people got annoyed with that because they have no sense of humor.
Annoyed with.
Have you read the comments on our news site? I'm just being in general. You're asking about people who don't have a sense of humor. Try flipping through our comment section. There's lots of them.
We've learned on the show, because we're almost a year and a half into this now.
Wow.
We've learned on the show kind of what to steer. I don't want to say steer away from. We still talk about. I mean, we just talked about abortion. We talked about critical race theory. We talked about Little League parades. We hit some pretty hot button stuff. But we've kind of learned how to navigate around it.
What we found is we're relationship experts, so we like to stay in that lane right there.
In that field.
And I've had people say, "Why don't you have a female on to give their perspective of relationships?" And I was like, "Well, Jeff and I have all the bases covered. I don't understand. So why do we need someone else's opinion?"
I still want the psychologist. I would
love to have a psychologist.
A psychologist would be fascinating. You and I talked about it too. I'm blanking on the word for it. A dream expert would be incredible to have on. Do you know a dream expert, Jerry, that we could have on?
Someone to analyze dreams, which is all bunk, because when you wake up, oh, there goes Jeff. When you wake up, it's all the honor code. There's no way to actually record what's happening in your dreams. So that's no, I would love when we have.
Wait. Are you implying that people make up their dreams?
You don't.
Are people doing that? Are people walking out in the public and making up dreams they had?
You can't how many dreams do you have that you don't remember? And
but don't most people say that? I have said to my girlfriend before, I had a crazy dream last night, but it's really
but I don't remember
this or was that? Yeah.
Well, then how do you analyze?
Well, I think there's parts of it you can analyze. I'm worried that you think
parts
there's
that
people
you remember.
waking up. Yes, you made it sound as if people are waking up, walking up.
Oh,
It's
no,
like
no,
I'm
I'm
coming
not
through the
saying that.
door and I'm like, I had a crazy dream last
I'm
night.
just saying it's like watching 10 minutes of a movie and saying if it was any good. Like, how do you really analyze what's going on in someone's head by analyzing their dreams when they can't remember them? Even the ones, like, you'll wake up and you'll be disturbed or you'll be happy and you can't really remember why.
But some dreams, the most analytical part is the part you can't piece together. Like, some people have dreams where, like, they can't tell who they're talking to. Like, everyone's face is blurry. Have you heard people have these dreams before?
Yes.
Yes. So, like, sometimes that is the part you can't remember or figure out in your dream. That is the analytical part. Like, why can you not see these people? Are you making
I
them
do
up?
get that.
Maybe it's your subconscious making up. Maybe you shouldn't worry about these things.
Aspect. Oh, listen, don't get me wrong. In general, I'd love to have a dream person come in.
Yeah.
But there's nothing less verifiable than what did you dream about.
I will say this just to like tie it all together. So there are some nights, it all depends. Some nights I fall asleep to basketball on the screen. Some nights I'll fall asleep like sliding through TikTok, all these different things. I have woken up in the morning and my recollection, like my first like thought when I wake up is I will have a dream that directly correlates to the last TikTok that I saw before I fell asleep. I do that all the time. So like if I'm swiping through and there's like a singer singing like whatever, I swear my dream will kick off with someone singing that song. It's really, really weird.
Is that a sign of how simple Jeff is, Jerry? Isn't that? Let's delve into this here real quick.
You think so? Jerry, have you ever heard my reoccurring dream?
No.
But
I have recurring dreams too. So
there you go. So here was my 15 to 20 second reoccurring dream, and it lasted until I graduated high school. Once I graduated high school, I haven't had it since. For like a 10-year span, nightly, I would be in a vehicle. I was never driving. The vehicle would go over the side of the road and into a body of water. Never the same body of water, never the same driver, never the same vehicle. But the one thing that it had in common was I had to get myself out before the car filled up, and I had to decide who I was going to save in the car. I had that dream every night.
You did not have that dream every night.
Dude, 10 years straight. I'm telling you.
No way.
You don't think so?
I don't buy it.
Just reoccurring dream over and over and over.
I don't believe that.
But you said you had a reoccurring dream.
I don't believe that anyone has a reoccurring dream every night.
Okay. I had it a lot, Mark.
My reoccurring is that I need to get someplace and I can't get there. And it's usually
you still have it.
It's usually around a sporting event. I'll have it once every 6 months, even though now I'm 50. It'll be a college football game. I'll get to the sideline and I'll realize that I still have my sneakers on.
So I
have to go back in and get my cleats. And then I go back and now it's halftime.
So what I took from that was I resolved my issues and you haven't yet. That's what I'm hearing. Because my reoccurring dream is done.
See, I look at it that every now and then, like that on a general basis, God feels sorry for me. And every now and then he's like, let's torment the kid again and pretend that he has a football game and he can't find his helmet. And so there it comes. And then
that's a good question. When you dream, are you or are you a different you?
No, you.
Because there are people that when they dream, they're younger or they're older or they're. Have you ever heard people talk about that before?
No, I want to hear Jerry's recurring dream.
Yeah, what's your recurring dream?
Give us one that you can say on the air that everyone's fully clothed.
Well, to that end, I've had several that I've had over the course of my life. And I won't talk about any of my current recurring dreams, but I'll talk about one that I had all through high school and then all through college. And it was interesting because one of these stranger kinds of things. It was in black and white. And
you are old.
Well, it probably had something to do with the example that I'm going to give you. Do you remember the end or the Twilight Zone with the spinning black and white dial that went away? Okay. Well, this reoccurring dream was I was stuck in a maze, a black and white maze that I had to find my way out of. And every time I came to a door in this maze, I hear a voice that would tell me something that was tragic or something, and I couldn't ever remember what the things were. I just knew that they were bad and they gave me a bad sense, so I never opened the door. So I spend my whole time just wandering around this maze, never opening a door, trying to get out. And I had that dream from the time that I was probably 8 or 9 years old, all the way through my second year in college.
Here's my breakdown. The maze was not the maze. The maze was the doors. You weren't sure if you had made the right choices in your life, and it was making you feel trapped, like you were in a maze. How's that for a breakdown?
Could have been.
This is what I took from it.
Okay.
You have one recurring. This is how our brains work. Of the holy trinity of the three of us right here. You have one recurring dream. I have one recurring dream. Jerry, with his brain, has a whole bunch of recurring dreams.
I do. I have 3 or 4.
Underachieve in the recurring dream field.
Well, I have 3 or 4 that come and go, even as an adult right now. Like, well, one I could talk about is I'm driving somewhere, and suddenly you end up off road, or you end up driving on a road that's being constructed. Or deconstructed, like the highway's perfectly concrete. There's cars going by, and then all of a sudden you're in a construction zone, and it's all stones and broken up concrete, and then it always runs off into like a frozen river, and now you're trying to back the car out and get out of the frozen river, and that's kind of always where it ends. I don't ever end up having to rescue anything or anything, but I'm just on this nice leisurely drive, and all of a sudden I'm stuck at the bank of a frozen river. I'm trying not to drive into the thing. That one happens a lot. But
interesting.
I think deep
I
down,
just have a very active mind.
I don't think I'm ever getting in a car with either of you two again. Because subliminally, you guys are gonna kill me.
In my dream, I was never the driver, which is why people have told me.
So now, once you become the driver,
people have told me that's why I have control issues. Like, people have told me, I don't like to fly because I'm not I don't like to be in the backseat of a car. Like, I like to drive. Like, when my friends and us go somewhere, I drive.
No, I get that too. The reason I don't like to fly is, and this is one that I don't know if I've talked about this. Like, I'm the only person in the world who's more relaxed on the plane than in the airport. Because, and I don't know if this is the control issue. Are you talking about the control of actually steering the plane? Or are you actually the control of, if it comes across on the board, your flight's delayed, what are you going to do? You can't take a bus. You can't get in your car. Like, when your flights can't, have you ever been, and I'm sure this happened to Jerry, you're sitting in the airport and it says flight canceled, and now you're like, now I'm stuck here, and now you got to figure out your way. So that's the reason I hate to fly, is you have no control. If they reroute your plane, or they delay your flight, or cancel your flight, you're helpless. Not totally, but
that's not a real issue.
Oh, that sucks. That's why I don't like to fly. None of the other aspects of flying bother me. It's the I have no control over the schedule.
That's some real first world problem stuff. Like, your fear is not you're flying through, humans are not supposed to fly. Like, you're doing something that is physically improbable. Yes, but that doesn't bother you. The hassle of having to find a different flight, that's the real fear.
If you've obviously never been in an airport where you're looking at your departure time and it says canceled, because that is traumatic.
First world problems there. I can't help you on that one. More afraid of your flight being delayed than the actual flight itself.
Yes, by 100 times. Statistically speaking, it's not even.
Mark, I feel much better in the airport once I'm on the plane, because there's always a question of whether or not you're getting on it.
Whether you getting on? Yeah.
So I know exactly how that feels.
No one has ever. I'm trying to think how to word this. No one has ever passed away because their flight got delayed.
My anxiety level drops significantly from the time I sit in the airport till I board the plane.
I guess what I'm saying though is you're talking about it as fears. Like, we're talking about fears.
Well, no,
and to me, one is a hassle.
Upcoming hassle.
One is a hassle, and one is very much a fear. Like, going at an amazing rate of speed, thousands of feet up in the air, is much more of a fear than the fear of like being delayed and the hassle of having to figure out how
Here's
to
the-
get
here's
out.
the-
But I
Here's
have
the
no
deal about
fear
that, Jeff.
going through the air.
Once you get on the plane, what's going to happen is going to happen.
No,
Like,
totally.
And I'm
might as well-
totally with Jerry on that.
Totally.
What's going to happen is going to happen. Period.
Totally. And I've talked with family members about this, my girlfriend about this. That's my problem is I mentally can't wrap my head. Like I'm literally, I can't accept it. Like my anxiety will not let me accept the fact that like I'm just supposed to accept whatever happens. I realize I have issues. I'm very, very aware of it.
Have you ever heard of like how many flights there are a day and how many?
I've heard all the math. It's safer to fly than it is to drive. I've heard it all.
No, but the number. Do you like the math doesn't help you? Because the math really helped me.
It doesn't help me.
Really?
Because I think it's about the personal. It's like it's not about statistically is it safer to fly or safer to drive or all those things. It's about my scenario in my world. Like it doesn't matter that everyone down there is safer or everyone up here is safer or whatever. It's the moment. What is my problem? How do I solve it? And if I feel like I look around and there's not a solution for me, like there's no way, then I get very like anxiety ridden.
I get that.
So when I'm in a plane and the idea that like I am not in control of what's about to happen, it's not that I don't believe the plane won't land. Like I wouldn't be on the plane if I didn't think it was going to land. It is just the anxiety of knowing that like, boy, like how am I going to solve this if it doesn't? Like how am I going to figure? And I can't wrap my head around the idea, as Jerry said, that like it doesn't matter because you're not going to have a say.
Oh, well, see, this is where I would wrap my head around there are whatever, and I don't know how COVID is affected. It used to be 75,000 flights a day.
Yeah.
In the U.S. alone, and there's so the mathematical percentage of something going wrong on your flight is like the mathematical percentage of you getting struck by lightning.
Sure.
So what would you do if something happened? I don't know, but nothing's going to happen. And that's the percentage of like nothing's going to happen. So it doesn't matter. That's how I look at it because I'm a math guy and that's how I convince myself.
I still have the aspect too of like, I'm not supposed to be there. I have this feeling of like, when I'm in a car, I look to my left and I look to my right and I'm like, yeah, this is like, if I was standing still, this is what it would look like. Like, this is my world and this is my environment. There's something about being in a plane that when I look to my right and when I look to my left, I have this aura of like, I'm physically not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be this high up. I'm not supposed to be going this fast. And so I struggle wrapping, I get this anxiety of like, I'm doing something I'm probably not supposed to be doing.
And I get that. Is there like, if you've flown across, you've been to California, right?
Yeah. Oh, this is the insane part about it. I'm a horrible flyer, severe anxiety. I have been on over 50 flights.
Okay.
Like I have flown quite a bit.
So when you're going to California,
yeah,
isn't there any sense of wonder that like, I just did this in 4.5 hours? And a couple hundred years ago, it took people 6 months in covered wagons and half their traveling party died.
Dude, when the wheels hit the ground, euphoria because of what you're describing. But I can't feel that until I've done it. Like once the wheels hit the ground and like I am the happiest person. I'm like all this. Some of it is just like the relief, the anxiety, like actually melting away off of me. But some of it is what you're describing. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm here already. So yes, but I don't feel that until I've done it.
And listen, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not making fun of you.
No, you can't.
Because
I mean, you absolutely can.
But it's because like I don't like needles, and for a long time, I was just telling someone the other day with giving blood, the best thing that happened with any like blood screenings or anything like that is smartphones, because now I find something that I want to read.
Away.
And I tell people, and then it's over before. So my mind is fully occupied. I mean, I used to try to talk to people, but it just didn't work as well. But and I know how many people give blood, and they're just like, it's like I told someone the other day, I just don't get how like they poke a hole in your vein. How's it close up? Like I just don't get it, but I realize I get it. So like, I'm not making fun of you. I'm surprised that the aspect of you isn't the numbers, because you're a numbers guy too, not as much, but like the mathematics of it. Like when I went, I probably told you a story. When I went skydiving and I did a tandem jump.
Yeah.
The guy I went with, I asked him, how many jumps have you done? And he's like, 950. And that was all I needed to hear. Well, if you've done 950, you ain't dying on 951, and I'm going to be fine.
Sure.
So those are the aspects that, but I get it with needles. Like, we all have our issues, and mine is needles and yours is flying. And
when are we doing that again, Mark?
Skydiving?
Yeah.
This is kind of what's happened to me. I would love to, and I don't know if I told my skydiving. The day I did it, I was 20, young 20s. And it was actually down in Delaware, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. So when we jumped out of the plane, you could see. Did you go skydiving, or have you not? Okay, you could see for miles, and it was cool. But having done it, if I did it again, I would want to do it on a cloudy day, because I would like to go through clouds to see things like appear and disappear, and I think that would be enjoyable.
Well, you tell me when we're doing it. I'll go with you.
Well, here's my issue, and I don't know. I think through my sinus, I have my sinuses hurt way more when I fly now as I get older than when I was younger, and I think in my allergy issues, as I've done my online research, I probably have polyps that have messed up the pressurization. And like when I fly now even on not like a cheap plane, on a real plane, like the pain is so acute. It's called there's a term for it. Like it is piercing, like right above my eyes. So I don't know, skydiving could be physically extremely painful for me, because sometimes flying is. Sometimes it's not. It's just kind of dumb luck. But if I knew that I could jump out of the plane and my head wouldn't feel like it was gonna, like someone just shoved a knife through my eyebrow, then I would do it tomorrow. But I don't want to pay a lot of money to cause myself extreme pain.
Makes sense.
And one of the other beauties of it, you can have surgery, you can have sinus surgery to remove these polyps, but like there's some ridiculous amount of regrowth. So the percent, like within 2 years, there's some percentage of them that grow back. So then you're like, well, why would I go through that to have it grow back? But if you've never skydived, if you've never jumped out of a plane with a parachute and you want, it is cool, you should do it.
I'm going to.
I would do that before I ran a marathon any day.
Oh, there's more of those in my future.
That's kind of why I thought we were having you on. I thought we were having an intervention, because I knew you discussed this again, and I thought
the question did get asked last week, so I never answered the question last week whether or not I'm running another marathon. The answer to that question is yes, I am.
Because we kind of knew the answer, and we were sad. We were sad.
I have two scheduled for the fall, not one. I have two.
So you can obviously cancel one and then get sick for the other.
No, not
Jeff,
happening.
are you running with him?
The marathon?
Yes.
Nope. I did my last and my only.
Well, Jerry did one. I think you guys should do two.
Nope. I think you should.
Anybody wants to run, I'll run with anybody. Just remember, I'm slow.
No.
He will run with you for the beginning, and
That's
then
right.
if you
Until
pull
you
away,
outrun me, you're done. That you're on your own after that. But I'll start with you. No problem. And by the way, Jeff, just one thing. I want to tell Jeff. Jeff, you have never cheered so loud or been so happy to be on the ground as the time you're in the air for an air emergency and a flight emergency. That you are very, very happy when those wheels hit the ground and the plane stops. You're kind of like, yeah, that was the best thing that's ever happened in my life.
Oh, I believe it.
You had one of those. I never did.
We had an in-flight emergency. I was flying from Denver to Dulles, and on our way back in, pilot comes on and says, we're on approach, blah, blah, blah. And we started to power down, nose down, no problem. And then all of a sudden we started going the wrong direction. Like, we're going back up. We went back up and we started circling, and we obviously weren't on the ground. And we circled for 20 some odd minutes. And the pilot finally came on and said, just want to let everybody know we have a problem. We have no landing gear lock light on our landing gear. And this was at night. So it was like 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, so we're going to go through a whole bunch of procedures to find out whether or not our gear is locked or not. And that's exactly what they did. Co-pilot came back, lifted the floorboards up, got a screw thing out to make sure things were screwed down. We flew by the tower at Dulles so they could see if our wheels were down or not. The whole 9 yards. And then I experienced what I hope nobody ever has to experience, and that is a full power landing. And that is a absolute joy. And my dad and I were on the plane, and we were in the back of the plane. We had intentionally sat in the back of the plane. For that flight, that was a big mistake, because a full power landing at the back of the plane is like getting your teeth kicked in. But when we were on the ground, there was a very happy bunch of people on that airplane with our flight crew because he pulled it off. So yeah, it's not fun. Flight emergency, not fun.
So, and just to be clear, you were not on the flight that what's his name, Sully put in the Hudson. You were not on that.
No, we were not on that flight.
You're so corny.
You know, the greatest part of that whole story is his radio call. Yeah. Where he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the Hudson.
We're not gonna. Yeah, take it to Teterboro. No, we're not gonna make it that far. We're not gonna make it that far. What are you doing? Put it in the Hudson.
He says it like someone's talking to you while you're watching a movie, and you're just like, oh, well, I'm gonna put it in the Hudson. They're like, what? I'm sorry, what? You're gonna do
and
what?
By the time they're asking him what, he's almost on the water.
Yeah, there's a splash.
Like power down, boom, we're there.
When they're like, what did he just say? Like with no sense of.
Well, you hear the one when you hear that radio call, you hear the one guy in the control tower. He says to him, "Where'd he go?" like he's like immediately off the radar. He says, "Put it in the Hudson," and then like, "Where'd he go?" Like, I think he's in the Hudson. Yeah, it's in the Hudson. It's exactly what he did.
It's crazy.
That is you've seen that movie, right?
Yep.
The thing of that movie is that I will always the calm of his reaction, but that's just a great example of the human spirit of all the people on the boats and the ferries and all that stuff of how many people would have died if it wasn't for the immediate reactions because the water was so cold
right.
That just the normal schmoes of society that raced to the rescue that got all the people out. That was great. But we're gonna put it in the Hudson. Oh, cool. What do you want? What do you want for lunch? You want fries for lunch? Okay, and we're gonna put the plane here in the water. And that was his level of calm.
Yep.
So anyway, there you go.
Let's end the show before we talk about hockey.
Listen, Canada, kind of a big night. With Toronto lost. Edmonton rallied to Edmonton was winning, then blew it, and they came back to win. See, that's what I do when I wake up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, it's 2-2 when I went to bed. I wonder if Edmonton won. So we got 3 Canadian teams. Calgary's up tonight, up 3-2. And then tomorrow night, Toronto at home, Edmonton at home, both 3-3. If what we should do, what are you doing tomorrow?
Not watching hockey.
No, I got better. We should drive to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Just stand with the people on the street. If they win, even though it's only the first round, if they win tomorrow, bedlam.
Are you going to be really upset when you find out that like Canada loves hockey, but it's like they don't like love hockey?
Who, Canada?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, are you going to be upset? Like, are you going to be upset that there's probably just as many Raptors fans in Toronto as there is Maple Leafs fans? Because I feel like in your mind, everyone's just walking around in the Maple Leafs jersey. And I feel like there's probably just as many Raptors jerseys.
Well, yeah, but like throughout Canada, there are way more hockey fans than basketball fans. There are way more hockey fans than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question becomes, just like everywhere else, if the Leafs, whoever wins, do all the other Canada root for Canada, or do they hate them more? Maybe Montreal fans would rather have an American team win than Toronto.
But
you would rather have a team from California win than Duke, even though you're in the same conference. They're Canada, of course they care.
But you make it sound as if like it's Canada versus America, and it's not. Like that's not how these teams are divvied up.
No. I get that, but the people of Canada, like these kids learn to skate before they learn to walk.
Okay, but like when a team if the Florida Panthers win,
mm-hmm.
how many people that skate for the Florida Panthers are from Canada? More
than half.
Okay, so like, is Canada really that upset? A bunch of Canadians just won the Stanley Cup. Like I'm failing to see your point.
But their country didn't win. Like they don't.
But when the Toronto Maple Leafs win, the country didn't win. The Toronto Maple Leafs won.
You don't think Canada felt like they won when the Raptors won or when the Blue Jays won? You don't think all of Canada took a pride in that?
That's a little different because that is the
only one.
Yes. So that's a little different.
But I do.
If I live in Canada and I'm a basketball fan, I'm probably a Toronto Raptors fan. Probably. If I live in Canada and I'm a hockey fan, who knows? I just don't think I think the subdivide between Canada and America when it comes to who wins the Stanley Cup, I don't know if it's this thing that you think it is.
I think you're crazy.
Really?
Yes. So here, okay, we'll say this. So Toronto is playing Tampa right now, and Tampa has won 2 straight Stanley Cups. They're trying to be the first team to win 3 straight Stanley Cups in 40 years.
Okay.
But in the world today, when you talk about how many die-hard Toronto Maple Leaf fans there are, and how many die-hard Tampa Bay Lightning there are, it's like 50 to 1, maybe 100 to 1.
Okay. But it's that way. That's how it is in lots of sports. So what's your point? Like, do you know how many Cowboys fans there are compared to like Las Vegas fans? Like, it's just, what are you trying to say?
Cowboys fans compared to Raiders fans? I mean, you just pick the Cowboys, but
I'm just saying, pick a team in the NFL that doesn't have, who has the smallest fan base in the NFL. You pick the team. There you go. So what's the difference between the Cowboys and Jaguars and the Maple Leafs and the Lightning?
But I'm saying you do it with any Canadian team. Like, you've got Edmonton and Los Angeles.
Okay.
There's way more Oilers fans than there are Kings fans.
Okay.
Even though Los Angeles is huge. Yes. Calgary's playing Dallas. There are way more Flames fans than there are Stars fans.
Yes, but you can do that in all the sports leagues.
Because when you
in the sports leagues, you're going to have 4 or 5 teams that have way more fans than the bottom 4 or 5 teams.
What I'm saying is, I think every sports fan in Canada is a hockey. In the United States,
I think you're making some bold assumptions.
I think it's a generalization, but it's like saying every sports fan in America likes football. It's a generalization, but it's not.
There's lots of people that don't like football.
Not sports fans.
Well, yeah.
That's what I said.
There's lots of people in Canada that don't.
Well, I'm sure there's people in Canada who don't like hockey, but they don't like sports. If you're a Canadian and you like sports, you like hockey.
No, you like.
Can we get a Canadian on to settle this argument?
I'm just saying, like, I just think that you have this like subdivide in your mind that this is going to be a great win for Canada. The next time that a team from Canada wins the Stanley Cup, Canadians are going to like wave flags and I'm just saying, like, I don't think that connection is as strong as you think it is.
You watch.
Like when the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup, I don't say Canada won the Stanley Cup. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup.
Okay, and I get that. But there's still a sense of pride. If the Pac-10 hasn't won the NCAA tournament since when? 95?
Uh-huh.
So when the Pac-10 wins, and Bill Walton can once again legitimately call them the Conference of Champions, there is a pride to that.
Okay.
But I think national pride is way more. It's why you root for Americans in the Olympics. You don't think
that's the Olympics. The whole point of the Olympics is it's country against country, which is literally the point that I am making to you.
But I will agree with Mark on this. Canadians want the cup in Canada.
Okay. But they want it with their team. No, they want it with their team.
No. Canadians do not want the cup anyplace else.
If I'm a die-hard Calgary fan, I'm not happy. I'm not happy that like Toronto won the Stanley Cup.
You are happy that the cup.
Stop.
You are happy that the cup, because here's what happens. If
that's like when the Yankees win the World Series, Mets fans are thrilled that the World Series is in New York City. As long as it's back in the city, who cares?
Have you ever seen the celebrations of the cup?
Yes.
We don't celebrate the cup in the United States.
Well,
if you're an American hockey player, you don't celebrate the cup the way a Canadian guy does.
What you guys are doing right now, though, is you are acting as if because they're Canadian, they celebrate it differently. And what I'm saying to you is, no, because they're Canadian, they have a larger fan base because they like hockey. And because of that, they celebrate harder. It's the same thing in any other sport. The Dallas Cowboys would celebrate harder than like the Arizona Cardinals. They just would. It's just they have a larger fan base. It's a bigger deal. So like it's the same. I can do this in every sport. Here's what I would dare you to do. I want you to go back and when the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship,
okay,
I want you to find me an article that has the word Canada in it. Find me a headline that says Canada wins the NBA championship.
But again,
I bet you can't do it.
It's different. And I'm sure, well, I bet when the Blue Jays won, I'll bet they talked about that it's Canada's first title. I'll bet there is.
But there's no headline that says Canada wins the World Series because Canada didn't win the World Series.
But whose game is basketball?
It's the same thing. When Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup, we don't say the United States won the Stanley Cup. We don't say that.
Hold on. The Reuters article from June 13th, 2019. The headline is Dynamite Raptors win Canada's first NBA championship.
Because it was their first, which was that was kind of your
you just asked for
it was
one.
Canada's first.
But
but would you admit that you're taking it out of context because it's their first? It's not that Canada won it or is holding it. It was their first.
USA Today. Canada celebrates after Raptors win.
What's that? Canada celebrates? Stop.
Canada celebrates after Raptors win.
It's their only team.
Okay, but here's my point. Sooner or later, I'll get to make my point.
By the way, you of all people getting frustrated of not getting to talk on this show is incredible. I am loving this. You not getting to talk. The frustration of not getting to speak on this show. Go ahead.
We could put my ex-wife in your chair and I would get to speak more.
Go ahead.
So here we go. So baseball is America's game because America invented it. And even though it's played all around the world in the Dominican, Latin America, and Japan, it's still been seen. We invented it. We invented American football. We invented basketball. So when you look at all those games, those are our games. When you take it like soccer is not our game. Soccer is a European game or a South American game or wherever. Soccer is kind of the world's game that's not ours. Hockey is Canada's game. And that is in a general gist, hockey is Canada's game.
Yes.
And there are more people, like as we watch the Super Bowl, they will be watching the Stanley Cup Finals, no matter who's in it. But they will be prouder if a Canadian team wins.
Totally. You know what my generation doesn't care about? Hockey. Where something was invented. Like, my generation does not care that, like, hockey is Canada's sport and baseball is America's sport. Like, my generation could care less.
Well, no, but as we walk around America, and the biggest star was LeBron James or Michael Jordan,
do you know who the
or
biggest
Aaron
stars
Judge
are
or whatever.
right now?
The biggest stars in Canada are hockey players.
Okay, but the biggest stars in basketball right now aren't American, and that's an American sport. Nikola Jokic is a two-time MVP. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a two-time MVP. Luka Doncic is stealing the show right now. None of them are American.
And none of them are nearly as big as LeBron James or Michael Jordan ever was or ever will.
Not yet. They're past their prime and they've had a career. These dudes haven't had a career yet.
They'll never be that big.
Giannis is pretty close, and Luka is right behind them. By the time their careers are over, they will be just as big as Michael. By the way,
no.
Stop. You picked the two biggest possible athletes of all sports and compared them. Nobody's that big yet. No one. There will be another Michael. There will be another LeBron. And there's a good chance it's Giannis or Luka. You say that, everyone was like, there will never be another Michael. And then LeBron James comes along and did pretty well.
But he's different. But he's not. And he's still
and these guys are different. Like, what are you talking about?
Because it's different.
It's not different. It's the same thing.
So you don't think because like there's a novelty to the foreigner aspect. It's why Ichiro was so big in America, because there was a novelty to him. But
Ichiro was
so
big because
many
he was
foreigners.
good.
There's so
You have to
many
be
foreigners.
good.
No, I get it. And there were other
Okay.
Japanese guys, but there were a handful. And each team had one. There are foreigners all over the NBA, and there have been.
Okay.
So like it's not.
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that an American star
Mm-hmm.
in the NBA will always do better than a foreign star in the NBA.
That's so weird because that's literally not what's happening right now. So it's so weird.
No,
that
I don't
you
mean
say
on the
that.
court.
I mean
saying, like in as far as like marketability and Q rating and things like that. Like Luka Doncic doesn't move the needle on Wall Street.
I very much disagree with that. Not only that, he's in a large market too. Like Dallas is not a tiny market. Like
I see Ball doing commercials, and I don't see Luka Doncic doing any. And on the court, their success is night and day.
Ball. Well, I mean, LaMelo Ball was an all-star.
Well, he's not a two-time MVP, but
Neither is Luka.
you said he was a two-time MVP.
No, Giannis is a two-time MVP. Jokic is a two-time MVP.
Ah,
and Luka is stealing
okay.
the show. Luka
Okay, I got you.
right now. Luka
See, there are all
might
these
be,
names I can't even keep the names straight.
Exactly, because you don't care. Like that's the funny thing. You're making an argument and you don't even know what you're arguing.
Luka needs to get out of the first round.
He already did. He's in the
No, he
second
didn't.
round.
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
they are in the second round. Hockey's in the first
Again,
round.
you're
Okay,
arguing about something
You're right.
that you're
You're
not
right.
really.
No, they did get out of the first
100%
round. You are
sure.
correct. You are correct.
Thank you.
So, all right, if you go back to the point, Canada doesn't care about hockey. We'll just agree to disagree.
I think that it's not as big of a deal to them as you make it out.
Well, how many times have you been to Canada?
I think in 1975, yes. I think it's 2022, and I don't think Canada
you're an
revolves
expert
around
on Canadian culture.
I don't think Canada in 2022. I don't think Canada revolves around hockey the way it did in 1970. Sorry.
Okay, here's what we should do.
You know what was really big in America in 1970? Baseball. You know what
Yep.
America doesn't revolve around anymore? Baseball.
I don't disagree with
Okay.
that. You know what we should do? We
What?
should pull TV ratings
Okay.
over. And this, again, it's the first round.
Mhm.
Toronto at home tonight, tomorrow, because they lost last night. Toronto at home for Game 7 against Tampa. I would bet you the Canadian television ratings are through the roof compared to a first round playoff series in the NBA.
Oh, I bet you it's closer than you think. I
We'll check.
bet you it's.
We will check.
I bet you it's closer than you think it is.
Especially
Especially like you're talking about the whole country, not just the city.
correct.
Okay, so
The whole
like
country.
Toronto, like you're saying that a Toronto Maple Leafs game is substantially higher in Toronto or in the country of Canada than like the Warriors game is.
Yes.
And you're wrong. It's closer. I'm not saying that Toronto Maple Leafs isn't higher, but this idea that it's like this astronomical gap and it's not comparable, you're nuts.
We'll see.
I'm serious.
We will see.
Being dead serious.
I'll bet there's a lot more kids in Canada that can skate backwards that can dribble with their left hand.
Okay. What does that have to do
Because
with
it's just
it?
part of their culture. They all grow up with hockey. They don't all like the world's getting smaller and they grow up more with baseball, more with basketball. And there's actually Canadian guys in the NFL now.
I think your
but
viewpoint.
it's still it's their national game by far.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that like that hockey isn't the number one sport in Canada. My point though is like I think your mindset isn't wrong. It's old. You have this idea that like everybody in Canada is just skating around on a pond with like hot cocoa and just like dreaming about hitting a puck into a goal. And what I'm saying is it's 2022. That is no longer the case. Like, if you look at basketball, did you know that like Canada has like 5 top 10 picks in the last 5 years? It's
I know.
Like kids in Canada play basketball.
I don't disagree with that.
So this idea that
And
like the
kids
Warriors game in Canada doesn't get a rating that's comparable to the Maple Leafs is insane.
And it is like there are way more kids in the NCAA playing basketball than there used to be from Canada. I don't know if I said that right. No doubt about that. There are also way more players in the NHL from the U.S. than there used to be. The percentage used to be way lower, and now you see all these guys going to American colleges, and so it is different. But that's in part just because of the junior hockey and the junior basketball, and the two countries have gone better. But it does not change the fact that like the Stanley Cup to Canada is what the Super Bowl is to the U.S.
That's fine, but we don't cheer as Americans. You're implying that they cheer the Stanley Cup as Canadians. So
I think they do.
So I don't think so.
I think Jerry's right. They want the cup at home. It's their cup. They feel like it's their cup, and they want it at home.
I find it very hard to believe that a Flame fan is happy when the Maple Leafs win. I just can't imagine that.
Well, and I guess, but they're not happy when anyone else wins.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
But they're happier when their country wins.
No, they're not. That's the point I'm making.
Wins. No, I don't think it is mutual.
It's like when the Cubs win the World Series. No White Sox fan is walking around the city like, "Hey, way to bring it back to Chicago."
You don't think
like,
there was
no one's doing that.
You don't think there was an old time sentiment? Maybe you're Jerry. I'll talk to you. You don't think there was an old time sentiment in America when the Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series that this is wrong? That Canada should not be winning Major League Baseball.
What year was that?
92, 93. They won twice in a row.
I was barely alive.
Okay. But there's this sentiment that a Canadian team shouldn't. This is America's game. Mm-hmm. Why is Canada winning America's pastime? Even though they're American players, they're Dominican players, they're all these guys. They weren't Canadian players, but it's still like our World Series trophy went to Canada, and it doesn't belong there. And there's this. And
who's feeling that?
It's been like 30 years.
Who is upset about that?
Jerry, wasn't that a sentiment? Am I making this up?
Who is upset about
Jerry
Toronto winning the World Series?
No. It's no. Again, I agree with Mark on this. Canadians want the cup in Canada. Period.
I think you two. I respect both of you. I think you're highly intelligent people. I think there's a ton of old man sentiment I do. I think there's a ton of old man sentiment here because I think younger generations do not care about this at all. Like, I don't think younger Canadians care if the Stanley Cup is in Canada or not. I don't think they do. I don't think a 25-year-old in Canada really cares if the Stanley Cup is won in Canada. I don't.
I was waiting how far into Jeff's explanation before a reference to age or just the word old came out. I knew it was coming.
Because every example you give me is 2 decades plus old. Like, everything that you're talking to me about was true. It did feel like a bigger deal. Like, it did matter more. Like, these people now, like, they're not stuck in their ho-dunk hometown, like skating on a pond. Like, they have a life, and there's a world, and they have a cell phone, and they see basketball, and they see football, and they play it, and like, it's not the same anymore.
So let me ask you this: if as this just happened, was it last year or the year before? So you tell me if Toronto plays whomever in the Stanley Cup final, it would be someone from West. If Toronto plays Los Angeles for the Stanley Cup finals, you think the ratings in Canada are the same as if Tampa plays Los Angeles?
No, but I don't understand why that would change the argument.
Because Canada's in it, so Canada would watch more. So because the people want.
Because you're saying Canada well, listen, your question is flawed because, of course, the ratings in Canada are higher because you have an entire fan base in a city watching it. And now if you take that team out of it, you lose that city's fan base. So I don't really understand what you're asking me. Of course it would.
So let me ask you. So outside of Toronto, we'll take that. You think the rest of Canada outside of Toronto that the television ratings wouldn't be higher if a Canadian team was in it or a Canadian team wasn't in it?
I think it's very similar to like regional in the United States. So like, even though I'm not a Phillies fan, but if the Phillies make it to the World Series, I have friends who are watching it and I'm invited to parties and so I'm sure in Canada, there's a very similar effect.
But their region is all of Canada.
See, that's again. I think you're like the idea that Canada is Canada. I don't know. I disagree. Like, there's this idea that Canada just as a whole, they must just do everything together, and hockey is the most important thing. Like, I just disagree. I think it's 2022. I think some of that has shifted. I think it's still true that Canada cares about hockey. I think it's still their number one sport. I think certainly for a city, it matters to them. There's a tinge of like, as we win the Stanley Cup, we're a Canadian city, like, and we love it here. But the idea that as a nation, like, they just get behind this idea of like, we haven't won the Stanley Cup, and I think it's all just this narrative that maybe the media pushes to like try to like get clicks, but as like Canada as a whole, I just don't buy it. I don't think Canada woke up this morning like upset that they haven't won the Stanley Cup in X amount. I think,
and just to clarify,
think fan bases are upset, but I don't think the nation is upset.
Just to clarify, you haven't talked to a Canadian about this ever, but
no,
I'm not saying that you're not. So, but doesn't it? So when
and how many Canadians have you talked about?
I could get one on the phone in an hour.
So Jeff,
you have, right?
But I haven't like in the last hour, but I know a guy who's a big hockey fan who's from Canada.
Yes, go ahead.
Jeff, what percentage of Canadians? What percentage of Canadians watched the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals? What percentage of the nation?
No idea. Why would I know that? I don't know.
I would say 50. Nah, maybe not. 40%.
70.
Okay. Right.
They obviously all are not fans of the single team that was in the Stanley Cup Finals.
No, but there's But this is my point. There's Canadian players in the. You just said to me that over half of the players.
That's not why.
Oh my.
They're not watching Tampa. Who did Tampa beat last year? Was it Dallas or was it the year before?
This is insane. You literally said to me that over half of the team is Canadian, but then when Canada watches the Stanley Cup, it can't possibly be because of that. What are we talking about?
No, but they're watching.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's their game. That's what we all get back to. And they're
watching Canadians play. Whether the jersey says Tampa Bay or Toronto, they are watching Canadians play.
Well, yeah, I get that.
So you think they're watching for hockey, and what I'm saying to you is you don't think it has anything to do with the fact that there are Canadians skating around on the ice?
Wait, hold on. So where we spun it to? So you spun it to.
I'm not spinning it to anything.
So when we talked about TV ratings, if 70%, not sports fans, not even hockey fans, if 70% of Canada watch the Stanley Cup Finals, there aren't 70% of San Francisco watching Golden State play. There isn't 30% of San Francisco watching Golden State play. So the TV ratings aren't even close.
I understand that, but what does that have? What does that prove?
Because when I said it to you a lot before, you said, I bet the TV ratings are way closer than you think.
No,
70%
not in Golden
close.
State, in Canada. You don't think people in Canada are watching the NBA playoffs.
But that's what he
said.
Not
70% of them.
No, I don't think 70% are either. But he's acting as if nobody watches the NBA playoffs in Canada. They do.
Well, we
could that's the point I'm making.
We could get a number, but it's 20? What percentage of America watches the NBA finals?
So what is the? But okay, so 70% watch it. But your point is they're watching it because they love hockey, and my point is they're watching other Canadians play hockey.
But
so why do they care if it's a Canadian jersey or not? The 70% proves to me that they don't care what the jersey says. They are watching Canadians play hockey. Whether it says Tampa Bay or Toronto, they don't care. They're watching hockey.
Correct.
That's what it proves to me. What does it prove to you?
So it gets back to the point that they don't care at all in Canada, where everyone is watching this. 3 out of every 4 people are watching this. They feel no national difference whether it's Tampa or Toronto.
The numbers clearly prove that. 70% of them watched with no chance of a Canadian team winning. They don't care. They're watching hockey. They do not care. They're just watching hockey. And you already told me half the team is Canadian anyway, even if it says Tampa Bay across the jersey. So what do they care what the front of the jersey says?
You don't think they care at all? There's no national pride.
No. I don't think this national subdivide that you keep talking about, I can't wait till a Canadian professional hockey team. They're not a Canadian professional hockey team. They're the Maple Leafs. They're the Flames. They're the whatever. The idea that this is a national pride thing, I think is not nearly what you think it is. It's not even close in 2022.
Okay. I don't know. I disagree.
70% of people in Canada watch the Stanley Cup without a Canadian team in the finals.
They love hockey.
Yeah.
And they love, so what do you?
So does it matter who wins? They just love hockey. It's me.
We'll have to hold on.
I'm not watching the NBA playoffs
because they haven't watched it.
I'm not watching
a winner in 30 years.
I didn't watch the Golden State Toronto finals in the NBA because I was worried that a Canadian team might win our precious basketball championship. I was watching it because I love basketball. That's it.
No, I get that, but you're one of 15% of people that watch the NBA finals. They are 70%.
Yes.
70% of America doesn't watch the Super Bowl. 70% of America doesn't watch anything.
But this is it. It just depends how you want to use that number. Like, I'm using it to say, listen, they don't care who's wearing the jerseys and what the jerseys say. They just want to watch hockey. You're using the 70% to say they obviously care. 70% of them watch the Stanley Cup even when they're not playing in it. So I don't think either of us are wrong. It's just, how do you want to use the number?
I think you're wrong. I think Canada would be much happier if Toronto won the cup than if Tampa won the cup. I think all of Canada.
Yes, Toronto would be.
No. I think all of Canada would be.
All of
now
Canada
there are teams that
but like
hate,
how? But do they? But like when you say they're happier, like sure. But do they like? Does it ruin their day? Like does it like?
Oh, now we
is
get
it
to
like
the psychology of it.
I'm not. I'm being serious though. You are acting as if this is like a national pride thing on the line for Canada.
I think it is a
I don't
national
think
pride
it
thing.
is. I don't
Jerry,
think Canada
Jerry?
thinks the idea that Canadians think any less of their hockey prowess because a team that is drafted of random players, not Canadians, random players, like everybody gets to draft Canadians. Everyone has Canadians on their team, and there's national pride on the line because Toronto on the front didn't win is ludicrous. It's insane.
Why do you think we have all the teams?
What do you mean, why do you think we have all the teams?
Why?
We don't have all the teams.
We have most of them. Why?
Because it's an American league.
No, well, it was an international league ever since the beginning. But why do you think we have all the teams?
Because it's an American league.
Because we have a better economy.
Yes,
because,
and that means it's an American league.
Because we have more money. It's why Winnipeg left once and went to Phoenix.
How are you going to try to twist this into you being
Quebec
right?
went. So you don't think there's any sort of Canadian, because again, it is their game and 70% of them watch it and they all love it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think there's any sort of resentment that
we're talking about Canadians.
Hold on. You don't think there's any sort of resentment?
Are Canadians not the nicest people on the planet?
Can I finish my
Well, you're
sentence?
talking about Canadians and resentment, and that's a little weird.
Can I finish my sentence? You don't think there's any sort of resentment that they were losing teams from Quebec and from Winnipeg to come to the United States?
They should have put their money up.
Because they couldn't afford it? You don't think there's resentment there?
Listen, the highest paid government official in Connecticut is a college coach.
Well, that's
like
every
in Alabama, I think it's the football coach. If you love something, pay up. Like, what do you want me to say?
But their
like,
economy,
what do you? So now it's my fault that Canada didn't get to keep their hockey teams.
No,
like, what are you saying?
It's not because they chose; it's because they couldn't afford it.
Okay.
They couldn't pay what America paid.
But what is the tie? Like, what does them not being able to afford their hockey team
because we keep stealing their team.
I don't know if we're stealing them though.
Well, they went from there and came here.
How many teams do they still have?
I think 7.
They still have 7 teams
out of 32.
Okay.
They have Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg.
Again,
Calgary,
but you keep making this like a national. Like, none of those teams are Canadian teams. They are city teams. They're city-based.
Okay, so the people in Philadelphia aren't rooting for Philadelphia because all the players are from Canada.
No, what I'm saying is the people in Philadelphia root for teams in Philadelphia because they live in Philadelphia, not because they live in the United States of America.
Correct.
Okay, so the people in Toronto
way,
root for Toronto because they're in Toronto, not because they live in Canada.
But you don't think that in any aspect that the way the Canadians rooted for the Blue Jays to win and the Canadian rooted for the Raptors
because they were
to
the
win.
only ones.
So
they're the only ones.
I get that. But so you don't think there's any aspect that Canada that hockey fans in Canada are saying just somebody win the cup so we can get it back north of the border. You don't think that?
Do I think there's old people like you that are saying, yes, I do. I think there's old Canadians like you that it really matters to them.
I can't believe 70% of Canada is old.
Just because they watch it doesn't mean that.
Whatever.
They're just watching hockey and having a good time.
Whatever.
Hey?
Jared, all I just want to say, thank God we had a 3-person panel because through this entire discussion, Jerry kept saying, I agree with Mark.
Listen, I'm just happy that
that's right. I get it.
I'm just listen. If he clearly was looking for stats that supported your argument, I will next time have my own stat boy that will look up my side of the argument and only Google my stuff that I want to see.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'll look that up.
So back to my original point. Tomorrow night, you and I were driving to Toronto.
Oh, yes, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Well, it would take a lot longer than a heartbeat, but it would be.
I would do it.
If they lost, it would be just sad. But if they won, good time.
I think Toronto will be okay if they lost.
No, it will be.
I think they'll be all right. I think they're going to be just fine.
You think they'll just be like, oh, shucks.
I think it's Canada. This is the other part of this that
You
makes no sense to me.
think they're all drunk and stoned anyway?
Are Canadians not like the politest country in the world? Like, we keep using words to describe them, like resentment, like all these, and it's like, what are we talking? Like, yes, I think Canadians will go, shucks. Like, yes, I do. Yes, I don't think I'm insane for thinking that's what Canadians will do.
That's it. It'll be over in 5 minutes. It'll be just like, like there won't be a pall over the city, or people won't be depressed because, like, the Leafs are good this year. The Leafs. Like, people believe they have a chance.
Audra says, I reached out to my cousin in Alberta, huge hockey fan. I need his opinion.
Thank you.
So, Audra, when he said thank you, you could be wrong.
Because I'm not wrong.
Just assuming you're right.
I'm right.
Hey, now wait a second. The fact that somebody hung in for an hour and 35 minutes to hear a hockey conversation, that person needs a gift card. Like, that person needs a reward because this show fell off the rails like 45 minutes ago.
No. Well, I had to do something so Mark would stop moping. He moped through the first half an hour of the show because, God forbid, we didn't talk about what he wanted to talk about.
You guys are talking about technological stuff. I need to talk about hockey feelings.
Oh, my God. I'm going to, go and find still frames of Mark from the first half an hour and, put them up in the office. All right. Are we good?
Yeah, and you know what? It just freed up my weekend because why would I drive all the way to Toronto when they don't even care? There's gonna be 40,000 people outside the arena who don't care.
People in Toronto care.
But if they lose, they'll just be like, hey, let's go.
So how many people outside of Toronto are driving to Toronto? Because this is a big national event, right? Like, they're like, this is for national pride. So I'm sure people are coming from all parts of Canada to help cheer on the Maple Leafs.
On the West Coast, they're driving Edmonton because they have a Game 7 at home too.
Get out of here. Wait, you mean there's more than one? So there's more than.
It's the first round. There's still 3 teams.
So you're telling me, so there's more than one team, and all these teams reside in the same country.
Yes.
So they must all be Canadian then. Oh no, they're not. They're made up of. There's a draft, and they pick different players from different.
But right now,
it's almost like they're not even a Canadian team. It's almost like they're a professional sports franchise. Weird.
Right now, if you go poll someone in Canada and you said, "Would a hockey fan of the 70%, would you rather have one of the 3 Canadian teams win or one of the American teams win?"
Yes, you should go work for Gallup.
You think they're all just going to say,
that's
not
a leading, because that's not a leading question. That's not a leading question at all.
Okay, so if you take a person from Canada and says, who would you like to win the cup?
Yes, of course they're going to say that.
What about a Montreal fan? What about an Ottawa fan?
I understand.
What about Ottawa?
But this is
what about Vancouver?
If we're being fair, though, this conversation was about, you seem to make it seem like this is very crucial. And what I'm saying is, I don't think it's that crucial. It doesn't mean that people wouldn't, there's not a handful of people in Canada that would be happy to see the Stanley Cup in Canada. I'm simply saying, though, this isn't a national pride thing. This isn't a big story. If Canada wins the Stanley Cup, it's not a big story. It's not.
I think in Canada, we'll see. Okay.
A Canadian hockey team winning the Stanley Cup is not a big story.
In Canada, I think it's a huge story.
It's not a big story.
So
it's a big story for that city. It's a big story for that franchise. Not a big story for Canada.
You don't think?
No, because Canadians win the Stanley Cup every year. No, Canadians literally win the Stanley Cup every year.
Does.
Every year, Canadians win the Stanley Cup.
Sure, they do.
Okay.
And there are Americans who compete in the Olympics for foreign.
Not every year. Not every year.
Well, every year they have the Olympics. That very clever.
Thank you.
There are Americans that compete for foreign teams in the Olympics, but we don't root for Australia because we're like, because that guy's from Tallahassee. We root for America.
You can't use the Olympics. The Olympics are literally subdivided by national lines. It's literally country versus country.
But not totally, because people go play for other countries.
But they're qualified. That's how
and some of the qualifications are very, very flimsy.
So you're trying to win this argument on a technicality of how people play for their country in the Olympics.
My argument.
That's how you're going to win this hockey argument.
Goes right back to all of Canada will be happier if Toronto wins than if Tampa wins.
But that wasn't
even though there may be more natural Canadians on Tampa than there are on Toronto, but all of Canada does not go roster by roster and say, where is this guy from? Canada is rooting for the Canadian teams, and they want the cup. And it hasn't happened. It was either 92 or 93. It was Montreal. And I'm saying that Canada cares a lot more, that they don't like, Calgary won. Dallas won. that they care. It's not because, well, there's Canadians on every team. They care. That's what I'm saying.
I think
they care.
I don't think it's as big of a deal as you think it is.
And I disagree.
It's not. It's just not
We'll
that
see.
big of a deal.
We'll see. Yeah, because they only 70%. Okay. Can we should do this. We should get if a team makes the Cup Finals, which none of them's even made the second round yet. I wonder how much alcohol is sold in Canada during the Stanley Cup Finals when a Canadian team is in or when a Canadian team is not in.
Yeah.
I think that would be an accurate description.
Why?
Because there's more parties, there's more celebration, there's more drinking. It's not
Of
just
course
the home team.
Of course, though, because there's a city, there's a fan base that one of the teams is in it. So, of course, like you keep trying to use these arguments where, like, obviously, if you take a team out or put a team in the Stanley Cup, all of these numbers fluctuate because the base itself, the fan base itself, is going to decide that. It has nothing to do with the country itself. It's just the fact that you're taking a city in the country that's actually
well, and all that. Just like I said before, with all that, I would eliminate that. I would be very happy to take that city out of the sample size.
Okay.
I think if Toronto's in it,
Okay.
in the Stanley Cup Finals, that there is more viewership and celebration throughout the rest of Canada than there is when Dallas plays Tampa. That's what I said.
Yes. Like, yes, but that doesn't make your argument.
Well, then why did we argue this for an hour?
Because you think they're doing it because they all have their Canadian flags and they're waving them outside in the driveway, like as cars drive by. And what I'm saying to you is, no, they're just watching hockey. That's the argument. That is the argument at hand. They're just watching hockey, dude. They like hockey. That's it.
They'll like it more if a Canadian team's in it. Jerry agrees with me. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you for being here. I've never appreciated you more.
Unreal. By the way, I love one validation, and he just feels like he's correct. That's all. He just needs the one validation.
He's the only other one here
until
what's her name gets back with her cousin from Alberta.
Well, Audra. Well, they're probably still on the pond skating. They're probably still out playing hockey. They probably haven't gotten back.
No, they might be a little stressed because Edmonton needed to win last night on the road, and they were up 2-0, and then gave up, and then it was 2-2, and they sweated it out, and they had to rally, and they won 4-2. So it was a late night on the left coast of Canada.
Wow, incredible.
Mm-hmm. Big deal. Now they got home ice back. They get Game 7 at home. Saturday night in Canada, Toronto plays at 7 at home to move on. Edmonton plays at 10 at home to move on. It's a good Saturday night in Canada, the best one they've had in a while. And you think it doesn't matter? I think you're wrong.
I didn't say it didn't matter though. That's the thing about it.
Where's my mic drop? Good.
You did not win this argument. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show.
Thank you, Jerry, for watching the Midday Show.
Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
We should have Jerry on when we talk about relationships. He would be enlightened.
I will come on anytime except for let's try not to be a 2-hour show.
Yeah, this was long. Sorry. I apologize.
You're not sorry.
Won't happen again.
And now you're lying.
All right.
I'm Jeff Bever. He's Mark Messina. Thank you to Jerry for joining us today. Everybody go enjoy the weekend.